Did you know that Babylon, the city of the once great empire, was taken without a battle? Yes, the Babylonian Chronicles and the Cyrus Cylinder, two crucial artifacts, confirmed that. Babylon's dramatic collapse reshaped civilizations and left an indelible mark on the world. Today, we'll explore how Babylon went from being an unstoppable force to a mere memory in the sands of time, and the surprising strategies that led to its downfall. Stick around because you're not just going to learn about ancient battles and kings, you'll discover how the fall of Babylon influenced cultural and religious policies in ways that make you journey through the ages, exploring the secrets of lost empires. In 539, before the Christian era, a huge shift happened that changed the course of history. Babylon, a super powerful city, fell into the hands of the Persian Empire. Led by a super strong leader named Cyrus the Great, this event was like the final nail in the coffin for the Neo-Babylonian Empire. The last king of Babylon was Nabonidus. His mom, Adad-Gupi, was a big deal in the Assyrian religious world. He became king in 556 BCE by kicking the previous king off the throne. In Babylonia, people were getting fed up with Nabonidus. Why? Well, for starters, he wasn't a fan of their favorite god Marduk, and instead he was all about the moon god Sin. This really ticked off the priests of Marduk. Nabonidus tried to make everyone in Babylonia worship at Marduk's temple in Babylon, which didn't sit well with the local religious leaders. Not just the priests, but the military folks weren't happy with him either. Nabonidus was more into old relics and history than taking care of his kingdom's defense. He left most of the military stuff to his son Belshazzar, who was good on the battlefield but not so great with people skills, making a lot of the political big shots pretty angry. Meanwhile, Cyrus the Great was making moves in the east, building up the Persian Empire to be super strong. Clearly, Cyrus had big plans and the strength to back them up. This was the moment everything was about to change. With Cyrus leading the military march into Babylon's land, this would be remembered in Chronicles of Civilization's Golden Ages as one of the legends of conquest and glory. Cyrus didn't storm into Babylon alone with brute force. This was a chess game played on a grand scale. His approach to conquering Babylon was as much about psychological warfare and political strategy as it was about military might. Understanding the vulnerabilities of Babylon, Cyrus capitalized on internal discord within the city. At this time, Babylon was not the unified stronghold it might have appeared to be from the outside. There was a palpable tension between the ruling parties and the populace, and Cyrus knew just how to exploit this. In September 539 BCE, the Battle of Opis was a game-changing showdown. It sat right by the Tigris River, making it a prime spot for crossing into enemy territory. Plus, it was guarded by the Median Wall, a huge defensive barrier north of the ancient city. By taking Opis, Cyrus could march right through to Babylon, the heart of the enemy empire. So what went down? According to some tall tales, the Persians, with a mighty army of 70,000, faced off against Babylon's 50,000 troops. The result? A major win for Persia. The Babylonians were outmatched, leading to a heavy loss and the capture of Opis and another key city, Sippar. This victory was so impactful that Babylon basically threw in the towel, letting Cyrus waltz in without a fight and taking over as the new boss. The actual battle details are a bit of a mystery, but we know it ended in a decisive Persian victory. Cyrus's forces entered Babylon, greeted as liberators rather than conquerors. Cyrus took over, showing respect for local customs and religions, which helped him win over the Babylonians. Ancient historians like Herodotus and Xenophon give us their versions of the story, but they don't match up with the Babylonian records. According to these records, Cyrus's entry into Babylon was relatively peaceful, a stark contrast to the tales of sieges and battles near the city found in Greek accounts. While the dramatic tales of Cyrus's entry into Babylon vary, it's essential to critically examine these accounts, recognizing that each source may reflect the biases and contexts of its time, shaping our understanding of history. This shift under Cyrus revolutionized the concept of leadership. By honoring local traditions and promoting religious freedom, Cyrus set a new standard for governance, illustrating how respect and tolerance can lead to lasting influence and stability. In the wake of Babylon's fall, Cyrus the Great swiftly enacted changes that would redefine the city and its empire. One of the first moves was dealing with Nabonidus. Instead of executing him in a display of power, Cyrus chose a path less traveled for conquering kings. He deported Nabonidus. This act was a clear message. Cyrus was not just another conqueror, he had a vision for his new empire that diverged from the norms of the time. Additionally, Gobryas was appointed as the governor of Babylon, ensuring a smooth transition of power and further stabilizing the region under Persian rule. However, Cyrus's most revolutionary act was his policy on religious and cultural tolerance. In an era where the vanquished were often forced to assimilate or face persecution, Cyrus went the opposite direction. He allowed exiled populations to return to their homelands, and not just empty-handed, but with their religious artifacts in tow. This wasn't merely an act of kindness, but a strategic move that fostered loyalty and respect among those under Persian rule. Cyrus was building an empire based on mutual respect and tolerance by allowing these communities to reclaim their cultural and religious identities. This approach was groundbreaking. Imagine the relief and gratitude of those who had been displaced, thinking they'd never see their homelands or precious religious symbols again, now being supported to return home. This policy didn't just change the lives of thousands, it left a lasting legacy on the concept of rulership and governance. In Babylon, people had a firm belief you couldn't really be the boss of Western Asia unless the god Bel and his priests said you could. So when Cyrus took over, he smartly declared himself king of Babylon to win everyone over. He played it cool, saying he was the rightful king following the old Babylonian rulers, and acted like he was chosen by Marduk, the god, to bring back peace and fairness. Cyrus was pretty upset with the previous king Nabonidus for disrespecting the local gods by moving their statues to Babylon. Just before Cyrus passed away in 529 BCE, he made his son Cambyses II king of Babylon, but kept the bigger title of king of the provinces for himself. Everything changed when Darius I grabbed the Persian throne. He followed a different religion, Zoroastrianism, and broke the tradition. Suddenly, Babylon's approval wasn't needed anymore for being a big shot in Western Asia. Right after Darius took over Persia, Babylon tried to get its freedom back with a local guy, Nadinta-Bel, calling himself Nebuchadnezzar III. He managed to rule from October to December 521 BCE until the Persians stormed in. The next year, 521 BCE, Babylon tried again for independence. This time, an Armenian king named Araka took charge, naming himself Nebuchadnezzar IV. The Persians captured it again. This time, they even partially knocked down the city walls. Eventually, Alexander the Great, a king from Macedonia, took over Babylon in 331 BCE and even died there in 323 BCE. After he passed away, his generals fought like crazy for 10 years over his empire. Eventually, Babylonia and Assyria were scooped up into a big new deal called the Seleucid Empire, run by one of Alexander's generals. People used to think that when the Seleucids built a new capital, Seleucia, everyone just packed up from Babylon and moved there, leaving Babylon to crumble and be picked apart for building materials. Around 150 BCE, the Parthian king, Mithridates, took over, making the area part of the Arsacid Empire. Babylon and its surroundings became a kind of tug-of-war zone between Greeks and Parthians. So, over 2,500 years ago, Babylon fell into the hands of Cyrus the Great and his Persian Empire, initiating a significant chapter in discovering the ancient world's legacy. Cyrus was not your typical conqueror. His wisdom and kindness towards those he conquered set a precedent that resonates as echoes of history's grandeur. He ensured everyone could practice their religion and even helped people return to their homes with their sacred stuff. This made people really like him. Plus, he was clever, playing his cards right to get into Babylon without having to fight too much, and guess what? Babylon's fall was just the start. Later, big names like Alexander the Great and the Parthians took turns ruling the place. And that is what happened to Babylon after its fall.